Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Housewife Historian, and we are here to talk all things Real Housewives. I know you guys are probably really tired of hearing about New Jersey, so this is going to be a different type of video. I'm just going to give you guys some different fun facts that's been going on and around the internet today. And one of those things is that Teresa Giudice is coming out with her own podcast. We have to kind of break this down, guys. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, turn those notifications on. You guys never know what's going to be going on. I'm definitely trying to keep my channel growing, so please make sure that you like and subscribe. Okay, so we have to talk about the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and I'm not going to backtrack with you guys because I know you're tired of hearing it, right? But there's a couple of things that we have to address. Okay, one is that I've heard it's recently reported that Teresa Giudice is going to be coming out with her own podcast. And people are having, good and bad opinions about it. So I just thought it would be a great video to talk about Melissa's podcast versus Teresa's podcast and what we really have going on with this dynamic in New Jersey, and then a couple little fun things that's been going around on the internet today that I think you guys might enjoy hearing about. Okay, we know the whole wedding took place, right? This is where the explanation comes in. It's like kind of it's a rough explanation for viewers, but I have to tell you guys something. So it's very true that these women pay news outlets to report and not report specific things, okay? And how do we know this is true? Well, it's true because when we did the research on Erica Girardi's $25 million that she spent on an American Express card, we were able to identify lots and lots of transactions in the tens of the thousands going to different news outlets, LA Times, New York Post, etc., etc. What's the money for? Well, it basically means they don't get bad press. They control the narrative. They control what is and is not, hitting news outlets about them. And this helps them in their game of chess to basically try to run their own narrative, okay? Who else has been accused of this? LVP, Lisa Vanderpump, was accused of being in cahoots with a news outlet and allegedly giving them the story of Dory and the dog and then saying that she didn't. Erica Jane was caught red-handed, however, because like we said, guys, it was on her Amex card. Now we have a situation and we're hearing lots and lots of rumors that Melissa is affiliated with Page 6, Melissa from the Real Housewives in New Jersey. It is coincidental, guys, that we've seen some articles come out from Page 6 in the last couple of days, definitely giving some inside information about the wedding, the guests, and also not giving Teresa very good press. The latest one that we saw from Page 6, which Jennifer Aidan from the Real Housewives of New Jersey also addressed, we have to talk about that, was an article that read that Teresa and Louis were going to send Melissa and Joe a bill for the fact that they paid for their plates at the reception, which wasn't cheap. The food was expensive, and so they are going to send Joe and Melissa a bill. Well, Jennifer Aidan took to Twitter to confirm that this story was fake news. It's not true. Louis and Teresa would never send Melissa and Joe a bill. Number one, they probably didn't have to pay the bill themselves. Do you guys want to know why? Because it's a 4-day series on Bravo, and she got discounts and free stuff out the wazoo. Okay, guys, she probably, really, she did not have to spend a lot for this wedding. Not like she would have if it wasn't being filmed. So allegedly, this is what Page 6 runs, and Jennifer Aidan comes in and says this is not true. It's fake news. And she makes a great point. Like, somebody comments and she replies back and says, don't you think if this was true that we would have a receipt? And I thought, absolutely we would have a receipt. That's a great point. We definitely would have Melissa and Joe posting receipts if that was the case. How do we know that? Well, we know that because Melissa runs her podcast, and she does talk a lot about the Real Housewives of New Jersey and any issues or conflict that's coming up during the season and after the season. But she also discusses her family conflict with Teresa, and she also had Joe, her husband, on the podcast a couple of months ago. And guys, this is not to be hateful towards Melissa by any means, because I do try to stay like a little bit in the middle with you guys. This, when I'm reporting facts, when I'm giving my opinion, that's different. But this time around, I'm letting you guys in on some facts about what's going on. But Melissa often with her podcast, like the only times I hear it or like it's advertised like in clips, like when you're scrolling through Instagram, it's always conversation about Teresa. I never hear any of Melissa's clips from her podcast and it not be in regards to Teresa or Teresa's wedding or Louis. Think about that, guys. Seriously, when you're scrolling on Instagram and she is like has a podcast and she, you know, her season, it's a lot about Teresa. I haven't listened to the full podcast, so I'm sure the whole thing's not about Teresa, but she's definitely using it as a selling point for her podcast, which is going to roll me into my next point, that Teresa Giudice is starting her own podcast. It's being alleged. Up and Adam reported this as well. Some people are saying like, what's Teresa going to talk about? But Teresa has a lot to say, because here's the thing that we have to think about for a second, guys. These women, if they don't have a podcast, they don't have a platform where they can really describe their situation, their circumstances, their opinions, unedited, and also it can help them, you know, run a different narrative, which is what they really tried to do in the press. And before I go on with this podcast, I want to tell you guys something that happened to me when I first came into the YouTube world. I had an opportunity to work with a really, really, really big YouTuber, and we were actually doing a story on New Jersey. We worked on it for a week. It was fire, by the way. And when the YouTuber that I was working with, we were like the day before we were going to do the live, said, I'm going to reach out to their camp and just see if they want to make a statement about it. Well, the next day I got a phone call from them and basically apologizing and saying that they couldn't do the story with me, and that, you know, they were really sorry, but they couldn't do it. So that was basically that YouTuber reached out to them and told them the story that was going to be running. Maybe they asked for if they wanted to make a statement, maybe not, maybe they already have arrangement with, you know, the Bravo celebrities, and they tell them what dirt they have, and then that Bravo celebrity in exchange says, no, don't run that, run this and this, and I'll keep stuff coming to you. Like, basically they form a relationship. They have like a professional but like an off the record relationship where they give YouTubers stories to run to help their narrative, their cause, their character, whatever you want to say. And it happens all the time. And is that what we're seeing with Melissa? Possibly. With Page 6, it could definitely be. And here's the thing with Melissa starting with Teresa starting a podcast. Like I said, guys, these women gotta have somewhere to, like, if they're a main person on the show, they can't always be doing interviews with different magazines and hoping that it's edited correctly. Like, they want to be in control of that. We saw it with the Beverly Hills Housewives in the very beginning. They used to do blogs. They would get the episodes and then before the public, and then they would blog, right? We saw Candy from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. She started her after night show, and she talks a lot about the Real Housewives of Atlanta and situations and circumstances, more than I imagine Bravo would likely want her to talk, but she does. We have Heather Dubrow. She does a podcast. Tamra does a podcast. Tamra, if you don't know who that is, she's like the lady that was on the Real Housewives of Orange County and left for a couple of years, and now she's coming back. So she has a podcast with that one girl. What's her name? Oh, Teddy Mellencamp. That's who it is. Yes. They have a podcast. I told you guys in another video in my live today, and I'm going to share this with you quickly before I wrap things up. With all of the drama between the women in New Jersey, there's a lot going on with Margaret and her childhood best friend, and somehow they have tangled themselves in this web with Melissa and the cheating allegations and Teresa. The husband of the new girl, okay, so this is going to be this. Remember, Real Housewives of New Jersey production hired 3 women and told them, you all have an opportunity to be full-time, but show us what you got. So one of those was Margaret Joseph's childhood friend, and she's been trying to get on the show for a very long time, and allegedly Margaret was, pushing for that, dropping her name, trying to get her friend on the show. To come to find out, that wasn't the case. Actually, Margaret was doing the opposite. So this childhood friend is very upset. And this childhood friend, who will be a part-time on the Real Housewives of New Jersey next season, her husband was on Twitter and he tweeted at Tamra and asked if his wife could come onto their podcast. And Tamra put no. She retweeted it and put no. Like, ugh. And I did not like that. I said this in my live, guys. I did not like that Tamra did that. Jen, if your husband wants to come on a podcast, if he wants to come on a YouTube channel, if anyone knows how to reach out to her or her husband, because I couldn't message him with his account, there's like no way to message him on Twitter, then please let me know. Please inbox me. I would love to have Jen on my show. I'm also going to be doing a live with Dana Wilkie on Thursday morning at like 10:30, and we're planning on doing Beverly Hills, but we can talk New Jersey, and I basically am trying to get her to get Jen on here as well. So you guys know Jen, if you have a way of contacting her, if you have an email address, anything like that, leave it in the comments, DM it to me on Instagram, because I really want to get her side of things. I feel very bad that this is happening to her and she has 0 platform, because people have never, haven't even met her yet at all in the New Jersey world. So I think it's a little bit difficult on her and her husband, and I think Tamra was a real asshole for doing that, because it's like, you know what, Tamra? Girl, you guys were like begging for people to come on your show when you guys first started. I mean, seriously now. Like, don't be rude to people. I hate that. Is that her plan to bring back and rejuvenate the Real Housewives of Orange County? It's just to be a bitch? Because I'm just like not trying to see Tamra Judd's 60-year-old, out here being like Miss Regina George. I don't want to see a Regina George. Just saying, I think it's distasteful. It's like almost as bad as Teddy. Like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. That's how I feel about Tamra when she acts like that. It's like nails on a chalkboard. And I think everyone feels that way about Teddy most of the time. So, just saying. All right, guys. Well, you heard it here. Teresa's going to be starting her podcast. I want to know if you guys are going to be listening to the podcast. But, before you make an opinion, just consider that Melissa does have her own podcast. She does interview people. They talk a lot about the family. Her last guest was her husband, and so when he went on the podcast, he was lovely to remind Teresa that her and her girls should just be thankful they got to keep their house while Teresa was in prison, because if it wasn't for Joe and Melissa filming a special prison couple of episodes with Joe Giudice, they may have been like completely lost their house and everything while Teresa was in prison. So Melissa and Joe were really looking for some appreciation for their services from when Teresa went to prison 6 years ago. Just saying. That was the podcast. That's the statement that he made. That was the part of the podcast that she decided to use to advertise with. And no one liked it. Everyone thought it was really distasteful of him to say. So I think they tried to like tone it down a little bit, but he did come out and apologize. But that just sounds so bad. Like, especially about his nieces. Like, you wouldn't ever want to think about your nieces. Like, their mom's in prison. Like, I don't know. I just think that was not a good look. And I used to really, really root Joe Gorga on. I really did. And I just sometimes those little things it really makes you wonder. So does it make you wonder too? That's what I want to know, guys. Make sure you comment. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of a longer video for anyone that might be new to New Jersey. And they need a little bit of a breakdown of who's who and what's going on, because it's a very, very tangled web. But thankfully, if you're following me, then you guys know that I keep you up to speed, up to date, and I'm basically a New Jersey expertise. All right, guys, have a great day.